So if we're not going to measure economic development using income, what else should we use? The standard one is the HDI, or Human Development Index. Yeah, and that's actually based on Tadaro's three pillars. So it's based on income, health, and education. Um, these things are combined in a way in which I'll tell you in a minute, but the Human Development Index comes on a scale of 0 to 1. If you have a score of above 0.99, then you have a very high level of human development. If you're 0.8 to 0.9, then it's high. If you're 0.55 to 0.8, then it's medium. Yeah, and if it's less than 0.55, yeah, then it's low. And when I started teaching this many years ago, you could split actually countries fairly equally between those four. It's about a quarter in each category. But today there are a relatively small number of countries now. Kind of in the 10. I can't remember, 10 to 20. Yeah, that actually have very low levels of Human Development Index, and everybody else has improved, which is encouraging. So how is this? How is the Human Development Index calculated? Essentially, we make a sub-index for each of those three main things. So there is an income sub-index, which is based on GNI per capita at PPP. It's actually based on the log of that. For those of you who care about such things. So so it's N, so it reflects the income that you actually get to keep. It's adjusted to it's not affected by nominal exchange rates, so it's probably the best version of income that you're going to get. Education, which these days is based on years of schooling. So it's the mean of your expected years of schooling and kind of past years of schooling, kind of mean years of schooling, up to this point. So it's kind of what somebody leaving the system would have in years of education compared with the population as a whole, added together and averages out. But the key is it's years of schooling, and education, and health, is simply based on life expectancy. And again, each one of these is scaled. Each one of these has a scale of 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1, and then they're combined to give you your Human Development Index overall, actually using what's called a geometric mean, where you multiply the three together and take the cube root of it. So what are its strengths? Its strengths are obviously it's much broader than just using income itself. It's reflecting the things that are going to lead to choice. So a good education gives you, as we said in a different video, gives you more opportunities. Means that what you're able to do is greater. Income obviously gives you better access to goods and services, to healthcare, to education. Health itself, again, is going to impact on your quality of life. And the things that are measured here are fairly, they're fairly easy to calculate, and to compare internationally. So they've picked things that are relatively easy to count, so that when we're comparing human development indexes between countries, then there is some sense that actually this comparison is meaningful. If you look at its weaknesses, probably the main weaknesses of the Human Development Index are: one, it still contains income, and therefore all of the criticisms that we made about GNI per capita, about income in terms of inequalities and the role of the state and so on and so forth, they still apply to Human Development Index as well, because it's a third of it is income. Secondly, we can also argue that it's still quite narrow. So A, it's only looking at health, education, and income, and B, within education and income, it's only looking at as a single variable. As we all know, how long you spend in education doesn't necessarily tell you much about its quality. And just because you live a long time, doesn't necessarily, just because on average people are living for a long time doesn't tell you about, kind of what the actual quality of health services are like, what your healthy life is like, what it's like to be a woman, and so on. So that there are criticisms of the Human Development Index that still apply in that sense, and as a result, it might make sense, to look at something else instead.